Good evening. I'd like to call the City Council Community Redevelopment Agency meeting to order today, April 5th, 2011. Please note the time, 6:35. I'd like to also defer to our City Attorney for the items in closed session.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The council met in closed session to discuss items A, B, C, and E. On those items, direction was given, no reportable action was taken. Item D on the closed session agenda was removed. Thank you.
Thank you. This time I'd like everyone to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, and Chief Nujar, could you lead us off?
Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Mayor, so moved with the addition of the additional emergency item presented by Director Estrada.
Okay, that would be the installation of a 24-inch water transmission main line on Sunset Boulevard.
We need to actually take a separate motion on the urgency item.
So moved on the regular agenda.
So moved on the, there's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Hodge. Please vote. 5-0. And now we need to add one item to the agenda.
So moved, Mayor.
Moved by Council.
We need to actually state the basis that meets the exception for adding an urgency item on. I believe staff has that information. The two factors are that the item came to the attention of city staff after the regular agenda was posted, and that there is a need to take immediate action at this time. If 4 council members agree with that, then it can be added to the agenda, and I believe the city manager will give you the information about when it came to the attention of the city and why it isn't immediately needed to be acted on tonight. Yes.
The issue is in reference to a change order, and the information that we received was on April the 4th, and which was after the posting of the agenda, and the differential on cost would be tremendous. An additional $44,000 on a change order that's only $7,800. So that's why we're asking you to add it on tonight.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez. Mr. Romero, your motion still stand?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Romero. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Hodge. Please vote. 5-0. Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is the announcements or public comments. Public comments are welcome. Speakers will be limited to 3 minutes. Please complete a speaker form prior to the start of the meeting. If the item you wish to comment is on a closed session item, please comment now. If the item you wish to comment on is on the public portion of the agenda, we will take your comment when we get to that item on the agenda. And I have 2 items or 2 public comments that need to be made at this time. And it would be, the first one, it would be from the president of the Del Valle Car Club, Mr. John Schaefer.
Former student.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is John Schaefer, president of Del Valle Car Club. Address, I need to give an address. 1235 Garnett Street, Calexico, California. Honorable Mayor and City Council, I would like to thank, behalf of me and Del Valle Car Club, thank the city for giving us the opportunity to do the car show here in Calexico. So I have a plaque here for the city.
Mayor.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Next, we have Mr. Jung Kim, who would like to speak on the public portion of the agenda.
My name is Jung Kim, 803 Holdridge
Street, Calexico, California 92231. On behalf of the one person individual as concerned citizens. And we have the agenda when I have information about the CFD, which is Community Facility District Bond, going to be taking care of the business as today. And I was trying to get the information through the website, and I have an interesting finding. Our council, our city is failing to transparency to the public, which is when I have backup documents pull out from the website, there's no recommendation from any step.
Excuse me, Mr. Kim, is this from item 7 on the agenda? Would you like to wait till we get to that item?
Okay, I just gonna want to touch the concept.
Okay.
I'm not gonna go details.
Thank you.
So, which is, and also, this one is impacting the school district and the public revenue, and without any discuss with the concerning the entity, which is like a school district, they just put on the agenda. This is going to be impact to the school district, a loss of revenue from which is like developer fees. And I spoke with the superintendent of the school district and city, and they never had a discussion on those. And I don't know, our city is how we're going to take care of the business for the citizens, the benefit, without talking concern the entities. And also the loss of money amount is not showing there. It looks like we issuing the blank check to the developers to do whatever they can do it. We don't have any detailed information. I believe our council members, yes, we have of the public's representative, and they are entitled to taking care of the public's interest. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kim. I appreciate your comment. And now we have the general comments by the City Council. And I'll start to my immediate left with Councilwoman Hurtado.
I would just like to make a general comment and with regard to the car show that we had, and thank our hardworking Calexico Downtown Improvement District members, Mr. Lalo Lopez, who is our president, and Morris Risen and Julia from the city for having participated in such a successful event. I was working really hard that Saturday, but I had an opportunity to go out there and see what was happening, and it was really nice to see that we had the city downtown alive again. There was so many vehicles out there to see, and a lot of people, and we had a couple of different new things going on. We had the Calexico High School drumline out there for entertainment, and then we also had a singing contest or something like that I saw. So it was really nice, and I very much want to thank everybody because it's successful events like that brings our community back together and brings life back to our downtown. The other thing also that I wanted to thank was that on my way over here I saw a softball game going on at a newly installed field, well, semi-field, at what we know as Risen Field on Meadows or Andrade. And that was really nice because actually that field became a field because of the community themselves. They put money together and really needed this for the kids. And so that was really nice too. So I want to thank the community and the staff for these different things that are going on, although we're going through such a difficult time that we're still wanting to have quality life for our citizens. So I want to thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hurtado. Mr. Hodge?
Good evening, everybody. This is directed to our city manager. Mr. Rodriguez, have any of the commissioners come to you and told you they would like to come up and report, or? I'm just curious.
No, they have not approached me.
Well, I had mentioned in the past that it would be a very good idea for them to, on a rotating basis, not every meeting, but hopefully on a frequent basis to come and report on what is going on in those commissions so we can be informed.
We'll send out a memo to them,
Please
inviting them to come in.
Mr. Rodriguez, there's another, I just got wind of it slightly, so I don't really know all the details. Do you know something about a very good grant that we could apply for that pertains to the parks? Is anybody? Am I?
There's grants that are out there. I don't
No,
know
it's
if
just
this one is
recent.
coming up. I don't know if Sandra's here or Nick. Can you respond to that? Do you know of any?
Parks.
They have them once a year for Parks and Rec. I just don't know if it's coming up here soon.
Nick Finley, General Services Director. I can take a research, I can look into that and see if, nothing's come across my desk or any emails in regards to that, but I can do some research and check on that tomorrow.
Okay, I'm sorry for the lack of details, but okay. I'll try to find out who gave me that or what the details were. All right, that's it for me.
Thank you, Mr. Hodge. Mr. Castro.
No comments at this time.
Mr. Romero.
Yes, it's, if I may, it's been 1 year since last year's devastating Easter Sunday earthquake within the Mexicali and Imperial Valley, City of Mexicali and City of Calexico were hit the hardest in terms of financial impacts due to damages to buildings and structures and the businesses that occupied them or to what was stored in them, and not to mention people's homes. Our region suffered only two lives. For a standard, they were two too many. We have seen so many reports of devastating earthquakes or other disasters to other regions of the world with damages and loss of life that we cannot make an attempt at a comparison from what we experienced to what they experienced. Japan alone was hit with 3 disasters, 2 natural ones, first with a 9.0 earthquake, then followed by a 124-foot tsunami wave. In the
Wait, how high?
124 foot.
No, it wasn't that high.
That's what the
It was
report,
34 feet.
the report that I had.
No, that's incorrect.
It was high enough.
Well,
Yeah, it was above our heads. And the third disaster was
124
man-made.
feet, Jesus.
The release of radiation that the people in Japan are now facing due to the damages to the nuclear power plants caused by the tsunami, which was caused by the earthquake. The latest data I read was loss of life at 12,431, 2,869 injured, and an estimated 15,153 persons still missing. We were unfortunate to have experienced what we went through, but so fortunate it happened during a Sunday afternoon. We collectively hated to imagine our own probable aftermath if the quake hit when our kids were in school and our loved ones were nearby or inside buildings that were severely damaged. No doubt our communities were financially hit hard, primarily in the cities of Calexico and Mexicali and the rest of the communities in the Imperial Mexicali valleys, while we were already experiencing our own economic crisis. I will make one comparison or one comment. We must never forget that we were extremely fortunate for what happened and when it happened. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Romero. Devastation in Japan, and I don't mean to make light of it, but it's a terrible thing. I'd also like to say a few comments on the car show. Kudos to Mr. Lopez and the BID and Mr. Schaefer, you for organizing all those awards that went out. I'm glad I was a part of it this year. It was great to see a lot of people out there. We had beach weather downtown. It was in the upper 60s with a breeze. I thought I was in San Diego. So hopefully that this is an annual thing around the same time. March is a good month for activities outside. And also I'd like to thank the Neighborhood House for having their graffiti paint out over on Saturday. I did not have a chance to attend, but I heard it was successful. We need more activities like this for our community, for our youth to take ownership and try to beautify the city. I'm glad to hear, Mr. Rodriguez, that you did meet with Superintendent Fergali to discuss the possibility of moving forward on our swimming pool. I think that is one of the utmost important matters that the city at this point is facing, and I think it needs to be a top priority, among other things. So thank you very much for that. Now hopefully we'll get an update on the swimming pool progress. And I know that Mr. Romero and Mr. Castro are involved in the wellness part of it through the JPA. Also, I'd like to see if Chief Mercado could give us an update on our fireworks status. I know that the applications had closed on the 31st. Do you have information for us, sir? Fire Captain Chavez?
Navarro.
Okay.
As of yesterday, according to the fire chief, we received only 3 applications. 2 were sent back because they were not complete. As far as since yesterday, only 1. And they're being reviewed. As soon as they're reviewed by the city manager, the fire chief, the groups will be contacted for the final.
So we have 5 permits, but only 3 applicants, and 2 were denied.
3 as of yesterday, 2 were sent back because they were not complete, so it's only 1.
So are we extending the deadline for these
Not that I know.
applications?
No.
So in other words, we'll just have 1,
Yeah,
Fire.
the final date for the application was on the 30th.
the 30th of March?
Yes.
Do you think they can take on the workload?
It's up to the fire chief.
I would venture maybe perhaps extending the deadline,
Yeah.
if that's a possibility. I know it's a policy that's in place, but
I believe that some of the applicants that were incomplete may have submitted additional information by yesterday, and I was told that the fire chief was out of town, so some of the additional information that may have been submitted may make their applications complete. But the fire chief, city manager will be reviewing this, and we'll come back to council if there are changes that need to be made or any potential discretion that the council has. It will be presented.
for some of the students that I see on the audience today, just to let you know that the fireworks ordinance was approved by the city council last fall, and fireworks will be sold this year in the city of Calexico, not in El Centro, not in Brawley, not in Imperial, but in the city of Calexico. And the city provided 5 permits for nonprofit organizations in the city of Calexico to sell fireworks. So hopefully we'll get more people involved, more people able to sell, and see what we can do, because I know that the volume of 1
Yes.
would be tremendous.
Yeah, hopefully, we're getting more applications. I know we got 1 today, but I can't approve it myself. It's up to the chief
Right.
to either accept it or reject it. And he's not here today. So
Okay.
he's going to probably look at that one tomorrow.
Okay. Well, I think we should, if we had a dozen, then of course we'd close the nominations or close the bidding process. But since we're very low in numbers of bids, then
Yes.
I think we should reconsider. I'm not sure about the balance of the council or our city manager, but we'll take a look into that. Thank you, Fire Captain. Okay, moving right along, we're going to start with the consent agenda. Consists of 5 items. I'm entertaining a motion to approve 5 items. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Councilman Romero. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Hurtado. Please vote for the approval of the consent calendar. And it's a 5-0 vote. Item number 6, public hearing. This is the interim urgency ordinance holding a moratorium on medical marijuana dispensaries. Staff recommendations is to hold a public hearing, introduce ordinance by title only, waive full reading of ordinance, provide direction to staff related to the police power policy considerations of the council about whether or not the council wishes to permanently ban medical marijuana dispensaries or consider some type of regulations to allow them in the proper zone. And we'd like some background by our chief or acting city manager or our city attorney. Okay.
I was going to give the initial on this staff report because of the legal implications of it. As the mayor mentioned, in May and June of last year, this council put into effect the initial moratorium on medical marijuana dispensaries, and that's because obviously the city zoning code does not specifically mention medical marijuana dispensaries. So we put the moratorium in place while the city could study and determine what route the city would like to take, whether you would like to allow dispensaries in town with regulations or whether you would want to approve a ban so that none of these dispensaries could legally operate in the city. Since that time, the law has not gotten much clearer on the subject. There continue to be court cases that come out related to medical marijuana issues in dispensaries. So in that time, we were hoping maybe the law would be clarified. It is not. At this point, staff recommends that you approve the extension of the moratorium because we're in a position where our moratorium is going to expire in mid-May. So even if the council gave us direction tonight to say draft an ordinance to allow these dispensaries in town, we would not have time to draft it, get it back for first and second reading, and allow it to take effect in time for the moratorium to expire. So at this point, staff is recommending approve the extension of the moratorium by introducing this ordinance tonight. And if the council is ready at this point in time to give us direction about what type of regulations you want for this city, give us that direction tonight. If you want to recommend that staff do some background, solicit some public input, if you want to recommend those things, we will have another year to study this matter, consider what the best interests are for the city of Calexico, and then council can adopt those regulations. But I guess we're looking at least for some direction of, what do you want us to do in the meantime, so that we can prepare this. And I can tell you that cities across the state of California are divided on this. There are probably half of them that have bans, and there's probably the other half that have regulations that allow the dispensaries. I'm aware that Brawley in August of 2010 approved a complete ban. I was told by the police chief that Imperial also has a complete ban, but that El Centro just recently considered regulations to allow a limited number of two dispensaries in town. So you can see even in the Imperial Valley there is a differing takes on it depending upon the interest of your local community. So there is law to support the city approving a ban. There is also law to support the city approving regulations to allow a certain number of dispensaries in town with regulations in the proper zones, with the proper distancing requirements. Either way the city wants to go with this, there is law to support it. It's just a matter of what do you feel the individual characteristics of this city warrant, and what direction do you want to go in. If you have more specific questions for the police chief or the Mr. Rodriguez, you can ask those now.
Does anybody have any questions for Chief or Ms. Lyon? Yes.
I have a question for the Chief of Police. What is the difference? What is the difference if we decide today or in a month or 2 months, instead wait a year? Can you explain that?
Obviously, with more time, it gives us a chance to analyze what other cities are doing. This is a new thing, and I have to tell you that we haven't opened it up for pro or con yet. So I would appreciate doing that first. But
well, then let's do that first. We can do that first if you like.
I would appreciate that.
Okay.
Because I think that actually is probably the
Save
better,
that question,
the
Mr.
better way to
Castro.
go.
Let's open up the
But
public hearing, okay?
right now we're looking
We
at
can
just
save
a
that question, Jack.
moratorium,
Open
a
up the
way
public
of
hearing.
setting it aside until we figure out a better way of handling this.
Okay. We'll open the public hearing right now, Mr. Gonzalez. Okay? And another question I may have is the sales tax revenue and those issues like that. But let's open the public hearing for this item. Anyone in favor of extending the moratorium for another year, please step forward and state for extending the moratorium. Okay. Well, we know he's against it, so so we're going to this. Okay. So at this point, I'd like to open the public hearing. Anyone in the audience who would like to speak in favor of extending the moratorium for another year, please step forward. Chief Nujar.
Thank you. I thought most I wasn't going to get it there.
Okay.
I would like to, Jim Nujar, 1144 East 5th Street, City of Calexico. I would like to advise the council, and again, as a staff member, it is our position that you keep the moratorium in place. It does give us a chance to look at other cities, look at some of the problems that they're experiencing as a result of having these dispensaries. And at this point in time, there's no rush to be able to get into this, because once we open the door and we say yes, then there's a lot of chances of making errors if we rush into it. And I would prefer that. I'm not saying no and I'm not saying yes. What I'm saying is I think it's still an area that we have to look at.
Thank you, Chief. Anyone else in favor of extending the moratorium for another year? Seeing that there is none, I'd like to invite those that are not in favor of extending the moratorium for another year. What happened to your scooter?
He didn't say.
My name's Oscar Gonzalez, native Bulldog. I was born and raised here. I've been waiting 40 years for this dispensary. When I was in college at UCSB, I was at the height of the civil rights movement, and pot was all over. As a matter of fact, I know for a fact that scientifically, the scientific community, medical doctors are split down the middle, and that's been for 40 years. We don't need to wait another year. Look, if we don't know what to do, maybe we shouldn't be the chief of police. And I'm going to say why. You know, when I was talking to a local doctor here, prominent doctor, been here 35 years, and he said, Mr. Gonzalez, I'm in favor of the initiative passing. I have a license though, because I was on morphine and meth and Vicodin. I have a license now to smoke pot legally. I had to go to the Department of Justice and get fingerprinted, et cetera, et cetera. Nevertheless, you can go to San Diego right now and you can get certified within 2 days. You know, they've got those dispensaries. They have a place and there's doctors, I don't know how many, maybe 10, 20, and they'll certify you the first day. But you have to be medically prone to pain, and I am. And I'm not gonna get into details of my pain, but I've been disabled since 2003. You talk about, where's my wheelchair? Well, I'm on medication right now. And when you see me walking, it's because I'm heavily medicated. Okay, did I answer your question? Where's my...
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. With that in mind, given that information, ladies and gentlemen, and members of the council, I was talking to that doctor, but I know for a fact for 40 years, the research that has been done with pot has been on rats, and it's been with synthetic pot. It hasn't been the organic, Cronica, Acapulco Gold. No, it hasn't been that. But I will affirm, without a doubt, that I think it's better that we have dispensaries because our children, whether we like it or not, smoke pot. Many of them do. I had 2 brothers, older brothers, that were in it. I didn't start smoking pot till recently, you know, because I'm legally in severe pain. And like I said, I've been waiting 40 years for a dispensary, not only here, Brawley has it, Central has it, and it's all over. Last election, it lost in the state of California by 9%, and none of the dispensaries and pro-pot indulgers made us an effort to pass. It's gonna pass eventually the next time. 9% in the state of California. Why should we wait another year? I've been waiting 40 years. And I know for a fact that when you get real people like Oscar Gonzalez and you make a study with me for a year, there's not gonna be any difference. And it's not true, the myth that if you start with pot, you're gonna gravitate to heroin and other. That's not true. And we have people in here that know that, what I'm talking about. We smoke pot. And it's not true, ladies and gentlemen. I challenge anybody, the chief, or any apologist, or repenter that thinks that because you start with pot, you're gonna go into heavier drugs. That's not true. The reason I'm in favor of dispensaries is a lot of the pot that comes from Mexico, and even so, is laced with PCP and other chemicals that are harmful and could make you schizophrenic and bipolar. In this room, I bet you we have 50% people that are bipolar. They may or may not be aware of it, but their symptoms and characteristics are indicative. I know a lot of the people here.
Please close up your argument.
In conclusion, I'm in favor of adopting it tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Why? Because I'm thinking of the children, 7th graders, 8th graders, that smoke pot and are smoking pot that has been laced with PCP and God knows what other chemicals. When you have dispensaries that are certified, it's a safe drug. You're not going to get into heroin. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. I appreciate your comment. Anyone else who is not in favor of the moratorium for this item for another year? Okay, come on up. State your name and address for the record, please.
I wish my last name to remain anonymous, please. I'm so sorry, I'm so nervous. But I'm here to speak for medical marijuana because myself, my mother, and my younger sister, she's 26 years old. We are medical marijuana patients, and it has helped us tremendously. And I know Mr. Gonzalez was talking about children and them smoking pot. Dispensaries are 18 and older, and you must have a serious illness and a recommendation from your doctor, from the medical marijuana evaluator. And to that medical marijuana evaluator, you have to take him records from your general doctor that you've been to all your life, and you have to take him actual records to prove your illness. They don't just, give you a recommendation on the spot like that. So as far as children getting their hands on it, yes, there are kids that are under 18 and they do smoke it. But who do they have to go to? They have to go to their local drug dealer down the street. And that's why they get into other drugs, because he says, look, here's some, okay, you came for pot, but look what else I have. I have this, I have that, I have this other thing. And that's why they want to call it a gateway drug, but it is not a gateway drug. It is a miraculous, most organic way to medicate your body without the side effects of Vicodin, of Oxycontin, of morphine. It is, I've seen it firsthand in many veterans, like Mr. Gonzalez. I've seen it help psychological post-traumatic stress. I've seen it help pain patients. I've seen it help my mother herself. She has fibromyalgia, diabetes, and vomiting. That's why she uses it. My sister has diabetes. That's why she uses it, because it alleviates the vomiting and the dizziness that diabetes caused. So it's not only, for pain patients. There's a variety of different reasons why you should allow dispensaries in the community, because I have seen cancer patients, terminally ill patients in our community that really need it. They need a dispensary for safe access. That is the key, safe and secure access to their medication. They don't deserve to be dying and have to go down the street to your local drug dealer. They need a safe and secure place to get their medication. And I'm sorry, I brought this for you. This is the impact of dispensaries and regulations on communities. And wherever a dispensary opens up, this might be helpful for the chief of police also. It's on the AmericansForSafeAccess.org, and there'll be a lot of information there for you, sir, for you to read on how dispensaries reduce crime and improve public safety. They also generate more revenue for the businesses around them. And then, if you allow dispensaries in your community, one day you can make up a marijuana tax, put a ballot up for the voters to vote for a marijuana tax, which would generate much more revenue for your city. So please take it into consideration. If you do put a moratorium for another year, please educate yourselves, and the best place to educate yourself would be at the AmericansForSafeAccess.org website. They have a legal bank. They can answer all your questions. So I have this for the time being. I'm sorry, I didn't make more copies, but you can pass it around amongst yourselves. And thank you for hearing me. Thank you, and for considering this for the patients of Calexico and of the Imperial Valley. I'm so proud that in El Centro the patients there will be able to get safe access, and you should definitely consider how many sick and terminal patients are in Calexico. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
You stated a good argument. Appreciate your comments. Anyone else who is not in favor of extending the moratorium for another year, please come forward.
We also have...
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. Seeing that there is none, I would like to close the public hearing now at 7:10 p.m. and bring it back to our council for discussion. Mr. Castro, you can ask the question now.
Yes, Chief, again, what's the difference instead vote today or in a month or 2 months or to wait for another year? I mean, what's the reason? I mean, we already hear that there's so many people use this as a medication, and they get the prescription from the doctor. So, for me, there's no difference. Wait 1 year, 2 years, because we need to see that problem that this marijuana thing that people are bad, but I don't think it's bad. So my question is, again, tell me what's the difference?
We're not making a decision as to whether we want to legalize marijuana or not. That's something that's already been decided. All we're trying to do is decide whether we want to allow dispensaries. Medical marijuana is already a decision that's been made. All we're trying to do is decide whether the city, or if it's a proper fit for the city, to have dispensaries available for the people in the community. We're not deciding whether marijuana is legal or not, only whether we want dispensaries in our town or not. That's the only decision we're making tonight.
Excuse me, Mr. Gonzalez. Thank you.
You know what? I respect the morality of the resident of Calexico, but there's a medical use, and also I know there's so many people use that, and also we can, as a city, we're looking for some revenues. We can make some money out of that. So also, it's not illegal. That's my point.
I would like to comment on that aspect because I don't think that that's correct. And I'm not, as a councilman, you obviously have to make a policy decision. But money should never enter into this. You believe me, because if you, as a state of California, have gone and even testified in front of the assembly in California for the same reasons, you can't tie a price tag to this because, especially where we are, you will never. If you say, okay, we're going to charge $50 an ounce, and on top of that $50 an ounce, we're going to charge another $10 of taxes or whatever, immediately black market marijuana is available. And so if the purpose is of having a dispensary for the purposes of generating revenues, you're not going to have revenues because marijuana will be able to be found other places a lot cheaper.
I understand that. So
the public hearing has been closed.
Your
I'm sorry.
statistics are not from Calexico.
Yeah.
Only a few feet from Mexico, where it's very cheap. So those statistics don't apply here. But anyway.
Yeah, but that's the reason. That's the reason there is some regulation, and we need to make some policies. So to avoid that.
I believe what Mr. Castro is trying to say is why a year, or why not?
Why can't we
6
shorten it?
months, or is that right? Is that correct, Mr. Castro?
He understand that, right?
Yeah, but it's
that's a policy decision. You can set it for a month from now, or 2 months from now, or it doesn't have to be a year. The recommendation
Okay,
from
you
staff
said that.
is
You
1
said
year.
that.
Okay. Any other?
He doesn't have to wait until a year.
Mr. Hodge, are you finished? I'm sorry?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Hodge, did you have a question?
I think we should do due diligence here and inquire and get all the facts and information. But I don't think it needs to be a year. We can shorten it unless someone can counter that argument.
The only thing I have to add to that is that this is your last opportunity to extend the moratorium. So if you do this the law allows you to do it up to a year. If you do it for less than a year, that's it. You don't get any more opportunities to extend your moratorium and study it. So if the council wants to extend the moratorium but shorten that time and just say we're going to extend it for 6 months, then staff would request policy direction on when do you want us to bring this back, what kinds of studies are you looking for to provide information to the council so that we know that we can get an ordinance before the council and in place before the moratorium expires. The way we drafted it, we did do it for a year because the law allows you to do it up to a year, and this is your last shot at extending it. So it is a policy decision for the council. Again, if you don't extend the moratorium tonight, we're not going to be able to get regulations in place, and so there will be a time period where there is no regulations. And what staff is at least recommending the council to avoid is extend the moratorium at least for sufficient time to have us draft and bring back regulations to the council. And you have to give us direction because, is it a ban? Is it a allow some of them and regulate? What type of information do you want to see? What kind of due diligence do you want staff to do? We didn't have any direction from from council the last time the moratorium was approved so that we knew what you wanted to see back.
So if we don't extend it a year,
we can.
It expires and there's no more extensions.
Exactly.
Any other questions?
Mayor, if I may,
Yes.
I do believe that we should look at extending the moratorium because we are a unique city. We do have unique characteristics and that we do need to educate ourselves. One question that I do have is that if there is already a dispensary that's operating in El Centro, then someone as a Calexico resident can actually go and do business at that one location, correct? Yes. Okay, so because we're so close by to a city with such major issues, just reading the newspapers, the radios, the Radio Patrulla, and all of that, we can see how difficult the situation is out in Mexicali. And the proximity does make me be a bit concerned of what we can be adding to that if we were to have a dispensary here in Calexico so close by. So I think we need to educate ourselves much more on this issue, and I think that we need to definitely consider the fact that we do have unique characteristics here in the city of Calexico.
Thank you, Mr. Hurtado. And to piggyback on that, I know that we have done no study within the city of El Centro to see how that dispensary is conducting business or if there is a crime element in and around that area. I understand that it may be in an industrial zone or it's not in a certain zone, but I think we need to look at how the two dispensaries in El Centro may be conducting business to get a better idea of what questions we may need to ask. Mr. Romero, you have a question? You're never...
Question. Yeah. Attorney, if we were to vote in favor of the moratorium for up to 1 year, can to give the opportunity for some drafting of some form of regulation, conditions, etc. Can it then, when this language is ready for the council, does it have to wait for 1 year, or can it now have the option of bringing them back before?
Right, it can come back sooner. What you would do then is you would just repeal the moratorium with the new regulations that you adopt. So it can definitely happen sooner than a year.
Then I would say that since the 1 year moratorium would be in the best interest of the city of Calexico to give the powers that be sufficient opportunity for their studies and for the language, so the council can decide if then at that time if it will be a ban or if it will be approved under certain conditions. So in that regard, I motion for the approval of up to 1 year. And just as a reminder that this can always be brought back to council within the year. But if we only go for an extension of 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, or 6 months, we're not going to be able to extend it again and we might be behind the 8 ball in having the language in place.
Okay, there's a motion. Are you done?
Yes.
There's a motion on the floor to extend this for another year. Is there a second?
Yes, I'll second that motion.
Second by Ms. Hurtado. No discussion, seeing that we've all discussed. It's time to vote. Please vote for the extension of 1 year. Motion carries 4-1. However, the arguments stated today were excellent arguments in favor of the dispensaries. So thank you very much for that, and we will consider that and direct staff to see what is best for the city of Calexico. Thank you very much. Item number 7, which is the appointment of the financial professionals to assist in the preparation of financing documents in the final sale of the City Community Facilities District 2007-02 bond issue. The recommendation is to approve the attached resolution engaging the financing team in regards to CFD 2007-02. And I would defer back to our city manager for some background information.
Regarding to this item, Mayor and Honorable Council, this CFD was actually, it was actually established in 2007, as you can see from your backup. What we are asking, and the developer is asking, is that we move forward and actually implement it and form the financing team so we can move forward with the sale of the bonds. There's a couple of individuals that will probably want to speak on this subject matter. Yes. So I'll keep it short, and I'm sure they'll provide some details. But the bottom line is that this is for Town Center, which is the industrial park that we're trying to move forward. And what this does is this creates a vehicle. The CFD is now will be the vehicle in order to go ahead and sell the bonds. The district then buys the improvements, and then we can move forward with having the district buy the improvements and provide money in order for a certain portion of the land to be, so the debt on a certain portion of the land can be clear so a developer can come in and do their project. They'll be speaking on that project tonight. The project will create jobs, will create services that are not here, and will also increase our property tax base, and obviously a part of the property tax base comes back to the city. With that having been said, I'm going to let the first our financial advisor come in and fill in a little bit of the details regarding the district itself, and then I'm going to ask the developer to come in and talk about the second phase of the development. As I see it, as 2 phases. 1 phase is the formation of CFD, and then the second phase is the issue of getting the financing, and in this particular case, we're looking at USDA, federal government, to provide a federal grant, a guarantee, a USDA guarantee, which then gets taken to the bank, and then the bank will fund the financing in order to get this project going. And then a third gentleman that we'd like to introduce tonight is a gentleman, Louis Stewart, who is the Deputy Director of Innovative and Emerging Technologies with the state of California, who is serving as a liaison on this particular project.
Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez, for the background information, and I'd like to now to invite Mr. Marshall Lynn.
Thank
Urban
you,
Futures.
Mr. Mayor. Oscar, I think, has done a very, very excellent job of giving you some background, but basically the actions this evening are really continuation of actions that the City Council initiated back in 2007 and then carried through to 2008. In 2007, the applicant, which was Town Center Plaza, represented by Kevin Smith, actually initiated an application with the City of Calexico to form a CFD. Numerous actions and public hearings were held on that project, and the CFD was formed, which is now called CFD 2007-2. The original CFD took in a area of 131 acres net in the acreage, 131 acres gross, 107 acres net, which has now been split into 48 parcels. The city, through additional actions also taking place in 2007, went ahead and introduced actions to incur bond and indebtedness. So what happened during those actions, the City Council said, if satisfaction of conditions are met, that the City Council will go ahead and issue bonds. In February 2008, the City Council approved a funding and acquisition agreement, which basically states how bond proceeds will be used to pay for infrastructure that has been previously built within the project area. So what has happened, ladies and gentlemen of the council, the developer has actually built the infrastructure in the project. He is simply asking for reimbursement for the sale of CFT bonds. So he can be paid for that. So he can be paid for that, those costs. He will then use those proceeds and so on from the CFD to pay off the land, which will make the land a lot more way of being marketable to various interests that may very well want to come down here to the city. The action in front of the City Council this evening is to approve a financing team to complete the action, to complete the sale of the bonds. This is basically the members that we have used, some of these members since 1977, 1978. So when these are also the same individuals with the exception of the underwriter who we used to underwrite and to bring us our tax allocation bonds, which were sold last month. We have to move very, very quickly because I understand from Kevin Smith there is some pressure to get this project done as quickly as possible. Anticipating that with the bond team moving as quickly as possible, the bonds issue will be sold and closed by June 30th of this year. I want the City Council to keep in mind that these bonds are not a debt of the City of Calexico. They're not a debt of the redevelopment agency. You're simply acting as a public body, as a conduit financing mechanism. If there's a breakdown in the inability of the property owners to pay, that is a risk that will be assumed by the bondholders. You recall that the election was held in 2007, and every member within, or the landowners within that project, simply voted a special tax within the boundaries of their district. The proceeds for primarily the special taxes that will be, that are charged within that district are the sole source of payments for the bond issue, with the exception that if an individual who owns a parcel of land wants to prepay that bond, they have an opportunity to prepay that bond anytime during the first 30 years of the issue. So the risk is somewhat negligible. Now there could be some additional costs. City of Calexico has had one CFD, Hearthstone. Hearthstone was one of those CFDs, was unfortunately sold as hundreds and hundreds of others in the boom of the residential building process. That CFD has established problems because of bankruptcies and so forth and so on. And what's happened in Calexico because of the drop in the value of residential land, that foreclosure is going to be very difficult, if not impossible, to actually clear up. But we have told the landholders that we are currently engaging in an appraiser, same appraiser that we have used for the last decade, the City of Calexico, an appraiser that's extremely knowledgeable in what land values are here. And we're going to simply put a ratio on that land of probably 4 to 1. That means for every dollar of debt, you have to have $4 of wholesale bulk value of that property. So that means if the land was $1 a square foot, to get into trouble, the land would have to drop to 25 cents a square foot. So we have a tremendous coverage, and we feel extremely, extremely safe on this. I do not know of any CFD that has funded industrial projects within the state of California that has ever had a default. That is not to mean that it could not happen. But realistically, as long as we keep stringent requirements on what the coverage ratio is, we should be pretty safe. Again, the city of Calexico will not be putting any money into hiring the financing team. There is no contingent liability. All members of the financing team are major firms in the state of California and will assume the risk of getting the bond issue done. If the bond issue is not completed, nobody gets paid. So we're extremely excited. We've been working with Kevin now for a good many months. I believe there's a couple other gentlemen here from the state of California that also want to talk about this project. That land has sat out there barren for many, many years. And one of the things that I'm most excited about this project is the potential amount of jobs that can be brought into the city. So I'm strongly encouraging the city to follow through with actions of the councils of 2000, 2007, 2008, and let's move ahead and fulfill the obligations that we've told the builders that we would. If there's any questions on part of the city council, members of the audience, I'll be more than glad to answer them.
Nope. Thank you, Mr. Lin. Oh, you have a question? No. Yeah, yes. Okay, Ms. Aguilar.
Norma Aguilar, 839 Heber Avenue. I have a question in regards to what impact that the development of that land will have on our fire and safety. How is it being paid? How will the additional demands on our fire and safety be addressed?
To the extent there's any impacts to any other organization that has a taxing authority or an impact authority within the city of Calexico, these bonds will not assist that at all. These bonds are simply sold to reimburse the builder who has sunk hard cash into that project, and we're simply going to pay him. So it's simple. If he's put in a sewer line, street improvement, a gas line, electrical line, conduit, and so on, we're simply paying him back. Any impact fees or any school fees that have to be paid would go through the normal process when a person comes in to build on the parcel, and then those impacts will have to be paid. But this CFD is not to pay fees, only to pay for the hard infrastructure in the ground.
Thank you, sir. So then I'll pose the same question, knowing that I won't get an answer tonight. I'll pose that same question to the council to consider what impact, and there will be an impact, to our fire and safety, and how those costs will be addressed in a time where we are in economic distress. Thank you.
Mayor, I'll be happy to answer the question.
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Rodriguez.
Currently, the property is within the city. It is vacant property. We currently do take care of it. It is our responsibility at this point. It is within the city. We're not annexing any new land. The way we would take care of it when construction occurs, that will create additional property taxes. Some of those property taxes will come to the city to be utilized in whatever mechanism we want to use it in. So that's why, obviously, one of the benefits is we start some improvements in there, which then provide for additional property taxes, which then come to the city to take care of some of the services.
Which in turn develop that land.
Correct.
And then that's where the fees would come in for public safety, the user fees.
That's correct.
Okay. Any other questions? At this time, I'd like to call either Louis or Danny who would like to go first? Danny Fitzgerald.
Yes, Daniel Fitzgerald. I'm the manager of the Calexico Imperial County Enterprise Zone. I've been working with the developer, both of Town Center Plaza, as well as the developer of the project that's going to be going into that area. What that is it's actually a memory loss center that would be coming into the city of Calexico. This actually issue came before the Planning Commission, I believe, last September, and it was discussed at that point in time. And talking about that, they've done numerous studies. They've actually been here in the city of Calexico. Myself and Councilman Romero have known the developers for almost 2 years, and have been working with them to be able to bring this project. This is a project that in the short term would bring numerous construction jobs, 400 to 600 construction jobs. This is an upwards of $80 million construction project. So you're talking about sales tax dollars that are happening here in the city of Calexico. You're talking about TOT dollars, because some of these construction people may be staying in our hotels and adding additional revenue here to the city. Then in the long term, this has potential of upwards of 800 full-time jobs that are needed jobs, and these are not temporary jobs, these are not part-time jobs, these are full-time medical type jobs, where these are full-time wage-paying, living wage type jobs that really can come into the city of Calexico. And this is the type of thing that can sustain the economy. These are not the types of things that just are circulating money, but this is bringing additional revenue to the city of Calexico and really being able to create, not only meet a need in terms of the city, certainly for this type of care, because there really isn't that type of care. We're currently right now, patients that need this type of care that have Alzheimer's, they either have to go to San Diego or to Yuma. And so their family members that are here in Imperial County, they have to travel to be able to visit their loved ones. And so there's great need for this type of project. So it has benefit both economically as well as socially. So I don't know
Maybe
if
we
there's
can put the
any
medical
questions from the council.
marijuana dispensaries out there, huh? Just kidding. Bad joke. Thank you, Mr. Fitzgerald. Anybody have any questions for Mr. Fitzgerald? Okay. Mr. Stewart. It doesn't go any higher. You may want to get off that step ladder.
I always have mic issues, so I'm okay with this. My name is Louis Stewart. I work for the Governor's Office of Economic Development up in Sacramento. Thank you for having me here tonight. I actually got the honor to tour your city this afternoon and got to actually go visit the site, where the proposed site for this project. As my title says, I'm over innovation and emerging tech for the state. The reason my office at the state level got involved with this project was because of the unique qualities that it presents and the opportunity that it presents to your community. As Daniel said, over 1,300 jobs, short-term 600 construction jobs. That's an immediate impact on the job creation here in the state, and that's our primary focus at our office, is job creation and making it easier for businesses to operate in California. On my side, the innovation side, I was attracted to this project because it's going to be a green facility. It's going to be an advancement in telemedicine, and so it'll be connected to the Scripps out in San Diego, and it'll be connected out to Yuma as well, so that people can actually telemedicine in and get diagnosis over your iPhone. And I thought that would actually put Calexico on the map, along with, and not very many cities right now, small cities, small rural cities are on that list. And it would actually put a huge spotlight on Calexico and present you guys with a tremendous opportunity for growth and in the near future here. And I thank you, and good luck with this.
Thank you, Mr. Stewart. I appreciate your comments. Any questions? No, thank you. Okay. And now I bring it back to our council. Does anybody have any questions or comments they'd like to make?
Yes, I do.
Mr. Hodge?
I'll take the lead. I have extensively talked to the stakeholders on this project, the city manager, Mr. Rodriguez, and some or many community members regarding the Townhouse Center Plaza project. I have been informed on the characteristics or attributes or dynamics of the CFDs, and I have been convinced on the merits of this project. I believe in this project. I believe that we need more jobs and more economic growth that it can bring. But that's not what I have issue with. I have issue with a lack, in my strong opinion, of due diligence, a lack of transparency on behalf of my city government here. Not Mr. Smith or the developers, nothing at that side. I don't have, and I assume my fellow council members don't have either, in front of them any substantial or legal documents or information that can help us make a crucial decision on a $7 million CFD bond that could, based on Calexico's history, Hearthstone, as a recent memory, represent a very high risk to our taxpayers if there is a default on the bond. I know many people have told me, don't worry, the city, the taxpayers will no way be responsible for the default on the bond. But that's the problem. Just words. Or an enlargement of print on the agenda. The bonds, when issued, are not an obligation of the city of Calexico. We should have in front of us legal documents stating in clear language that under no circumstances will the city by any means be liable if in any of these very insecure economic times, the project should go under. I refuse to be part of the old style of Calexico politics. There just is a lack of backup information. Where is the legal documentation, or whatever you want to call it, on the prospective developers? And no disrespect to any developers that come into our city. I've been learning we should have financial statements right here in front of us or beforehand, business references, credit line reports, business plans, report on developer fees. Furthermore, where is something what we call the determination on the Department of Industrial Relations regarding prevailing wages with this project? Again, make no mistake, I believe in the idea of this project, but I have no substantial fine print to convince me that there is no risk or no liability to the Calexico taxpayer. That's you. I don't want you to get stuck holding the bill. And it's you people out there that have told me about the history here. So, in addition, we just reinstituted the Finance Committee, and they were shunned on their responsibilities. They were informed. They did not have, they're not here to give a report or recommendation on the project. No city. So there's no city due diligence, no substantial backup information. So it gives me no choice but to vote no at this point in time.
Thank you, Mr. Hodge. I forgot to ask Mr. June Kim to step forward. He wanted to speak on this item.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, that recognized me. Okay, I was listening to all the project information. We have a lot of good pictures. We're going to create a lot of job. We're going to have a service for the community to hospital. But any project or anything, when they bring the issues to the public, they always bring the good pictures. They just brought the pictures, or not the detail, so they can play around with the detail. Just like Mr. Hodges right now is complaining about the lack of information, there's no number, nothing else. So what we have, we sold the idea with the good concept, we pulled bad things out of there. So our city might not going to be able to liable. And I see a lot of information out there say how you can make the money with the CFT, defaulted CFT bonds, which is they are same tactic using the sell the CFT bond, and that failed to somebody making money out of our towns. I'm not saying they might going to be failed. So I have, besides the lack of the detailed information, I have several questions. Number one, why we don't have money, why we increase our debt to create the job and service? There's no guarantees Calexico citizens be going to be higher than 800 the job, maybe 10%? Well, I'm not sure. There's no attachment that the Calexico citizens going to get a job. Maybe we spend a lot of things to build a hospital. Our neighbors, citizens come to our party to take all the benefit. The other one is, what happened to the developer fees, to the school districts? I understanding as when I had the information about the appraisal, the conference, the saying is they can be done excluded property tax and the developer fee excluded on the bonds. So that is guaranteed to school have money. If not, gonna be separate from the developer fees and the property tax from the bond. I have another questions. State cut the budget, especially a lot of budget to the education, public benefits. Now, our city want to cut the revenue for the school district and the children get the benefit. What is the public benefit we're going to get? So we exclude all the taxes and the developer fees.
How much money Mr. Rodriguez, would go to the school district from this particular action?
Well, we're talking about the formation of CFD, and developer fees come when there's construction.
But there's no construction.
So there's no construction at this point, so there is no developer fees, and that's the whole idea, that when this project gets going, there will be construction, and developer fees will be paid, of which a share goes to the school district.
Okay, thank you. Go continue, Mr. Kim.
Yes, okay. The developer fees, if they include in the CFD bond, the school district not going to get the money until they finish the projects.
I'm not sure. I think it's a...
Okay, so my concern is the developer
They
fee
will
to
get
the
it in
school.
installments or...
When they pull the permit.
When they pull the
And
permit.
the other one is, I know we need a hospital, and we need to create a job, but we hire so the healthy business practice. Someone wants to have a business, they have to have enough capital to do their job. Now, some developer comes without the money, just selling the ideas to give us all the responsibility, and to transfer the responsibility to the future tenants. The future tenants, they're going to be increasing their cost under the running cost. They might going to be fail. So why, if the developer is weak, if developer wants to come to develop our community to risk us to be fail, while we're looking for some of the developers they have enough capital, they can bring it to build the business here at community benefit. So everybody win-win positions.
Please close your statement. Thank you, Mr. Kim. Mr. Hargrave. Mr. Hargrave is a member of the Financial Advisory Committee. In fact, he's the chair.
Good afternoon, council members. Good evening, and members of the public. My name is Carlton Hargrave, 2104 Banda Avenue, and I am the chairman of the newly formed Calexico Financial Advisory Committee. With all due respect, Mr. Hodge, I have been involved in this project for months now in your Financial Advisory Committee, and I have sat in on many, many meetings. And I am thoroughly familiar with this project, the pros and cons of it for the benefit of the city. I didn't speak earlier because there was enough speakers who were talking about the project, but I will give you my personal point of view. I am not saying that this is the view of the Financial Advisory Committee because we did not have time to call a formal meeting to formalize a recommendation as a formal committee. But I will give you my opinion as the chairman of the committee. I've sat in on numerous meetings with the developer of the project, Mr. Smith and his partner. I've sat on with many meetings with MMG. I've gone over this thing with a fine-tooth comb. And I can stand here and unequivocally recommend to the city council that this is a good project for the city of Calexico. I, as you, have very, very strong reservations about CFDs. I was not a fan of a residential CFD. I have never seen one work, and I've been involved in CFD since 1981. Was my first exposure and my first dealings with a CFD. So I have seen CFDs for the last 30 years. CFDs were made for this purpose. They were made for industrial commercial purposes. In my opinion, they were never made for residential purposes, putting that burden on the homeowner to pay developers reduced costs for developing it over the homeowner's period of 20 years. If I had ever been asked, I would have never recommended that Hearthstone CFD. However, this is entirely a different case. This project is what CFDs were made for. Secondly, what I think a lot of us are missing is the CFD is already in place. The bond of the $7 million has already been issued and is being paid for. All we're simply doing right now is the city council, as the political subdivision that's responsible for this, is giving your permission for them to refinance that, and so that we can clear one parcel of it and proceed with development. you're not taking any additional liability, or you're not taking any additional taxes on. The city's not taking any financial responsibility whatsoever that's already in place for the developer. So there is no financial liability for the city for making this decision tonight. I think that's what's being missed.
Excuse me, Mr. Hargett. Mr. Rodriguez, when we spoke, maybe I misunderstood you, but in essence, is that what you stated to me?
The district, actually what we're asking tonight, the district's in place, it's a sale, the procedure for moving with the sale of the bonds. Okay, so if you look at your agenda, it's very clear that all we're asking is for authorization to form the financing team. The district, the CFD, if you look at the resolution, it's already been approved by this council. We're asking authorization to form the financing team to implement that and to sell the bonds. Now, in reference to legal documentation, all that comes after you allow us to move forward to form the financing team. There's going to be documents that are going to come back to you. That's why in the financing team, there's also legal counsel.
Why after?
I'm sorry?
Why after?
Because that's when, once you give us the go-ahead and the appraisal gets done, now we know how to size the bond issue. Once we know how to size the bond issue, that's when all the documents start being put together. Until we even do an appraisal, we have no idea what the bond issue is going to look like, what the size of it is. So that's the first step that needs to take place. And then you get that and the financing team being put in place, and then the documents start coming together, and those come back to you. If you recall, that's what we did the last time when we sold bonds.
Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez. Mr. Hargrave?
Yeah, one more issue. And as far as this goes, I think that there's two parts of this that is being missed. What's before the council tonight is, again, approving moving forward with the bond. The development comes behind that. The MMG development comes behind that. However, in this case, I think that they're very closely related. And I am more buoyed by the fact that it is closely behind it. I think that all of us are aware that the state director of the USDA Rural Development was here in town today for a seminar in El Centro, but also partly for this project. And I had a conversation with her today, and she expressed excitement about the project in Calexico moving forward. And they are the people now, of course, we've got paperwork and we've got governmental and everything. But the fact of the matter is that the head of the agency is very much aware of this project. She has stated that she is excited about the project, which lets us believe that this project is not, once approved, it's going to sit on the back burner. This is something that's moving down the track for Calexico right now. Secondly, we've got the state governor's representative. The governor's office is behind this project. They're aware of it. They're excited about it. And once this is approved, once it starts moving. So we've got a lot of government agencies who are responsible for making this thing move forward already on the bandwagon saying, let's move this thing. And thirdly, as your chairman of your financial advisory committee, I was able to sit in with one of our local lenders this afternoon, who is also very excited about participating with the developer in providing funds, so that the USDA can guarantee the loan. So there's a lot of pieces of this puzzle that are coming in place, and as a member of your financial advisory committee, I have been totally involved, and I am totally for the project.
Thank you. You should have saved that flowery speech for another time, Mr. Hodge.
It's not a flowery speech. It's important information that people need to be involved with. We've made too many mistakes.
Hello, I'm Darrell Redshaw, Adams Avenue in Huntington Beach, California. I just want to, I hope, clear up a few things regarding our development. Kevin Smith, who is a primary member of our entity, I'm a minor member, and we've also got a lot of other investors, and we pretty much answer to a board of directors. And, we have, believe it or not, $20 million into this project. In 2009, we paid off $11 million of it. So we have a net, what we owe on it right now is about $9 million, and I'm not at all concerned about sharing that information. When we talk about using a CFD, and we put this CFD in place years ago, or when we started this project, the intent was not so much just to buy the facilities for the city, but really to use that money to entice other outside companies to come into the city. As most, the CFD in and of itself tends to devalue property, just because there is a special tax. But the reason that, and we've deliberated in our board of directors quite a bit of whether to move forward or not move forward. When MMG and Richard Nault, we've been working with him for probably 3 or 4 years now, and you know, he really enjoyed the fact that Kevin and I were so advocates of him, but he never felt that the city of Calexico embraced him, and so you know, we started to lose him as far as looking at our city. And fortunately, he had a relationship with Danny Fitzgerald and Mr. Romero, and the two of them are actually what brought Richard back to the table. When we started seeing what other communities were offering Richard to put his facility there, we started to look at the CFD as a mechanism, not so much just to repay part of our loan, because again, it's all it is, for us, it just switches debt for debt. It spreads it out over the balance of our project. But what it gives us the ability to do in this situation is to relieve the liens that are associated with the particular lots. The CFD is not going to repay us on the money that we have into this project, but it'll relieve the lien on those particular lots. Then we can put that in as equity into his project for his financing. And it will only help his ability to get financing both from someone like Sun Community or a local bank with the USDA rural guarantee as well. So in answer to Mr. Kim or Jen, you know, we've already paid our planning fees. We've paid our development fees. You know, the school districts, they get paid. There is on title on every one of our lots. As soon as something goes vertical, the school district gets their funds. And the reality is, the more expensive a building you put up, the more fees that come back to the city. So if most of our buildings are, you know, say $1 million, $2 million on 48 lots, imagine what we could do with $60 to $70 million value on 10 lots. So,
thank you.
okay, any questions?
Yeah, no question. Bring it back to the council. Does anybody have any? Okay, come up, Mr. Gonzalez.
My name's Oscar Gonzalez, and I'm a native of, I was born and raised here. I'm not a carpetbagger. I'm not a scallywag either. You know, scallywags were the ones from the Southerners during the Civil War that got with the carpetbaggers, and they made money.
Thank you for the history lesson.
But
Thank
they
you.
had no concern for the community. And I'm against the program. I'm also a member of the Finance Committee. And whether that means anything at this time, because we really haven't dealt with substance. But I differ with the gentleman who spoke, the two gentlemen that spoke. I'm against it. I think we need to look at the Azusa Partners land decision, though, which basically stated that a lot of these developers and consultants, they come into communities with two arms, you know. They want to make money. And a lot of them, history has suggested, I think there was an Oriental man here, not too long ago that had a bond and skipped town. We haven't found where he is. Somebody said he's in Texas. But I'm very leery and cautious when you have carpetbaggers in favor of this project. They're not from our community. They weren't born and raised here. I was. And I know about Calexico. And I've been involved for 34 years. And I think, in all due respect to you, Mr. Rodriguez, that was a flimsy documentation that he gave your council. I think you guys need to really analyze it. And don't be dense in accepting, because the only guarantee that I saw in that, I read the documentation, was the appraisal. They have a New York trustee from LA. There's no guarantee from there. And I beg to differ, and especially with somebody that's made millions, especially RDA, Mr. Lynn Marshall. He's made a lot of money. Sure, he's going to vote for it. He's probably getting a cut out of this. I would caution not to vote for the project.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez.
Thank you.
Mr. Lynn?
Mr. Mayor, thank you so much. Let me make a couple points here. Mr. Hodge, you had brought out in one of your opening comments that you wanted a bond issue was done that would be transparent to all, and that the agenda item did not have that data in it. That is perfectly right. The sole purpose of the meeting this evening is to engage the financing team, which will be made up of a team of underwriters, bond consuls, disclosure consuls, appraisers, and so on, that will provide the city council in the next 2 to 3 weeks a notebook full of information about the project. That will give also give the council all of the legal obligations and so forth that the city has, as well as the person that wants the CFD bond. So Mr. Hodge, I think you got 2 weeks in front of us when we fully intend to give you all the documentation.
But if we vote yes today on the bond, it's a done deal, right?
No.
Pardon me?
Is it stated
No.
it, or is it?
No. This evening you are not voting on the bond issue at all. You have nothing in front of you to vote on the bond issue. No, you're simply voting for a team that will put together documentation for you to approve. If you recall some weeks ago when we sold the tax allocation bonds, you had bond documents that thick. It's the responsibility of the underwriter, disclosure counsel, bond counsel, and the financial advisor to vet this issue, every portion of this issue, to you. This is not a risk proposition. The infrastructure has already been built in the ground. It's been paid for. We're simply selling bonds to reimburse Kevin Smith and his company for putting the infrastructure in the ground. It's extremely simple. It's not complex at all. So there is no risk. There is really no risk. There's no risk to the city. If for some reason there is a risk or there is a default, defaults and CFDs are simply the responsibility of the bondholder. The city does not have any obligation. But it's up to the city. We have as professionals, we have a fiduciary obligation to structure bond issues that are safe for everybody and fully are transparent. I want to make a comment too that someone said about us. We've been with the city for 36 years. I've been responsible for the issuance of over $10 billion worth of bonds. 10 billion, that's with a B. And we've never had a default. And I take very, very seriously when we issue bonds with public money, they have to be vetted out. And that's why we only work with the best professionals within the state of California. And the professionals on the team that we hope that you engage are, in my opinion, the best firms in the state, and will provide to you the best service at the lowest cost.
Mr. Lynn, appreciate your input, and the issue is not with you or Mr. Smith and company. I guess I'm just old-fashioned. Maybe I'm oversimplifying it. Maybe I'm overly cautious. But you know what? It would have made me feel a lot better. A piece of paper here from attorney, just in legal terms. Guys, don't worry. We'll get that big, thick binder later, but the city is not going, I promise you, honest engine, the city is not going to be responsible. I'm just old-fashioned, something in writing. You know, if someone comes to the door and going, hey, can I fix your roof? Yeah, go ahead, get on top. It doesn't work that way. So that's all, that would have satisfied me a great deal.
Mr. Hodge, those documents would come from either bond counsel or disclosure counsel. I, as the city attorney, I'm not involved in these bond issuances. I have to issue an opinion letter after the bond documents are put together just to say resolutions were approved by the council. This is a specialty matter that's dealt with by outside legal counsel that specializes in bond issuances. And those are part of the professionals that were supposed to be engaged, or that council could engage tonight. So I wasn't, our firm does not do this kind of work,
Okay,
and
Jennifer.
so that's the situation we're in.
Mr. Lynn, go ahead.
Mr. Hodge, you're absolutely correct. Sir, you just got about 2 weeks in front of everybody else. And within the next week or so, you will be deluged with bond documents.
All right, I'll bring it back to our council. Anybody want to make any questions or comments or motions at this time?
Yes, I do.
Go ahead, Mr. Romero.
As Councilman Hodge mentioned a little while ago about CFDs, as an example, what happened with Hearthstone, I completely agree with you. I have mentioned before that I am not in favor of any CFDs for residential areas. I do believe that CFDs are a valuable tool for commercial and industrial. As mentioned, we have a representative from the governor's office with Mr. Lewis Stewart here in support of this project. As mentioned by Mr. Hargrave, that he also spoke to a member of the financial institution who is very much in support of this project. As mentioned by Mr. Hargrave, USDA Director Dr. Humanston at the federal level is supportive of this project, and which is probably at least one of the reasons why Mr. Stewart is here present with us. You had, Councilman Hodge, you have heard stories of things like this in the past. I have also heard numerous stories how for political reasons, projects have not been able to come forward within the city of Calexico to benefit our community. And we have to remember one thing. This is a resolution to be able to go forward with this project. It is not a contract. It is just a consensus from this council to form this team of financial advisors, if you will, that can put something together. At a later date, the contracts may or may not come before this council. So we're not committing the city of Calexico to anything. On the contrary, this council has an opportunity to put a project within the city of Calexico that is a huge benefit for new employment. It is not, and with all due respect to restaurants and retails, this is not an entity that is going to compete for the same dollar that's here. This is a form of entity that could bring in new dollars from elsewhere. So those are new monies. That is economic development. Those are new monies that will come into our community for constructions or for employment. And obviously, under employment, they will be able to spend, or at least have the option to spend their shopping dollars here locally. And in that regard, I am in favor of this resolution, and I motion for its approval.
Thank you, Mr. Romero. Anybody else? There is a motion on the floor. I will second it for discussion. Anybody else like to
I'd just like to comment that, as we all know, I actually live at Hearthstone, and I have experienced quite a bit of information and the experience that we personally went through. And as a matter of fact, that's what promoted me to want to run for city council, was because everything that I experienced and found out on how that was handled. So I'd just like to say that when this CFD was being discussed, I tried my best to be at meetings and understand fully with discussions with staff and Mr. Fitzgerald to understand this CFD in particular, because since I did personally experience a CFD going so bad, of course, I was very interested in knowing exactly what was happening with this one. And actually, I do feel very comfortable. And as you can imagine, I want to ensure that I know absolutely everything about this CFD that I can. And I do know quite a bit now about the differences. And again, I do feel very comfortable with this CFD, so I would like to see this move forward.
Thank you, Ms. Hurtado. Mr. Castro.
No, I don't feel confident with this CFD. What I see in this item, there's a lack of information or there's so many issues that Mr. Hatch, he already said that. I'm not going to mention that, but I don't think it's, we need to, especially in this crisis, we need to make sure what we are going to decide for the community. And in this case, I'm against this proposition.
Thank you very much, Mr. Castro, but I disagree with you and Mr. Hodge. I think we've been dragging our feet too long on this particular project. I think it's high time that we take a look at what this can do for the development of the city as a whole, bringing in jobs in construction, in the medical field, and putting Calexico on the map. We need to become a little more friendly with some of these types of developments. I, too, have been following this project along with Mr. Romero, and I think that this is what Calexico needs at this time. This is one of the major areas, one of the 4 major areas that I think are developments that will help our community. We must look at the big picture, and the big picture out there is job creation. We have to stop dragging our feet, we have to keep moving forward, and we have to put the past behind. Transparency is fine, and I think they've done their due diligence. I believe in this project. I believe it will be good for Calexico. God knows we haven't had a development in years. And we have to look at this and see in the next couple of years what it's going to do for the city of Calexico. We cannot keep putting roadblocks on these particular items that are going to benefit the city in the next 10, 15, 20, 25 years. And I believe that this neurological center will be a type of a hub for the Imperial County. And if we don't do it, we're going to lose it. And if we continue as business as usual, people are going to go elsewhere. People that want to invest in our community are going to go elsewhere. So I will call for the question. Please vote now. Motion carries 3-2. Does it need a 4/5 vote, or is it 3-2 fine?
3-2, just a
Thank you very
resolution.
much. Thank you, council members, for your opinions. I respect them. Moving on to item number 8.
Mr. Mayor, if
Yes,
I
I'm
just
sorry.
may interrupt, I'm sorry. A housekeeping issue with item number 6 was I needed to read the title of the ordinance, so if I could just do that now, then it will reflect on the minutes.
Yes, please read the title.
It's an interim ordinance extending an urgency measure prohibiting cooperative, collective, or other forms of marijuana dispensaries for an additional year. Thank you, and then we can move on to item 8.
Thank you very much. Item 8 is the selection of a delegate and alternative for the Southern California Association of Governments General Assembly in May 2011. Before we continue, I would like to volunteer for this.
Is it just one person?
Well, we need an alternate. Would you like to be an alternate?
Do I get to go?
I don't know. You went last year, Mr. Romero?
No, that was an incorrect statement by Mr. Rodriguez.
Who went last year?
I have no idea. I believe what I recall, a council member did not attend. I think Mr. Armando Villa, former city planner.
How many people need to go?
There's looking for one.
Oh, one.
One primary and an alternate.
I would volunteer as an alternate.
You want to volunteer as an alternate? Sure. Okay. I want to volunteer to go on this one. Does this need action?
If we could get a consensus of the council on the delegate and then who is the alternate, that would...
Okay.
I'll favor the primary and the alternate.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Castro. Thank you. Thank you very much. And I'll be back with a copious report for the audience and our staff. Item number 9, which is the informational item on business license fees and penalties. And I really like going back in history, seeing this 1975 policy and then the 1957 policy. And we don't have cigarette machines anymore, do we? Talked about cigarette machines. Anyway, Mr. Rodriguez, go ahead, or Ms. Hashem.
Well, I'll open up and then I'll let Mrs. Hashman provide you with the information that's in the packet. Basically, we've been talking about this item for a while. It's been kind of out there. And we gave you a lot of information, and so I realize that you probably even need more time to go through this. But what we wanted to do is put it before you and basically try to get a focus on what is it that you want us to look at. We've talked about the penalties that came into play this year, and we are seriously moving forward with that, and we will be bringing that back to you. I think there's a pretty good consensus that the fee is a little high, and so we are, as I've said before, we are definitely looking at making it a universal penalty along with the business license, where the business license, if it's delinquent, then you get a 10% penalty the first month and then 10% the second month, and it goes on for 5 months. That's what we're looking at doing and bringing that back to you for a change versus the flat-out $250 charge. And I think that will help because a lot of people feel it's unreasonable. And so we're going to be making that change and bringing it back to you for authorization. The second point of it was in reference to the business licenses themselves. And so the question that we have in our mind, and that's why we gave you so much information, because we're not sure where you want to take it or where you want to focus on, is to get input from you as to where do you want to focus on it? What is it that you're looking at so that we can then concentrate on that, whether it's are we looking at the possibility of lowering fees? Are we looking at the possibility of increasing fees? Are we looking at the possibility of looking at certain categories, whether they're the flat rates of professionals? Are we looking at gross receipts from the standpoint of wanting to consider helping small businesses, and therefore at some point in time saying, okay, anybody making under 100,000 gross receipts, we want to look at the fee for that. We just want to get a feel from you as to where you want us to go, because the business license ordinance, as you can see, is huge, and there's just a lot of detail there. So we're trying to get an idea as to where you want to go with it so we can focus in on that. And then also the secondary issue with that, and legal can speak to that, is in reference to once we focus in on what you want us to do, then legal has to look at it and analyze whether or not there's any conflicts on the council based on what you want us to look at, so that we can obviously provide you guidance as to who can participate and who can't. So those are the two issues that we have before us. I'll let Finance Director, Ms. Hashem, come up and just tell you what's in here. There's a lot of information in here. Again, I'm not so sure that anybody's gotten a chance to go through it, because I can tell you I didn't go through it with a fine-tooth comb. But we wanted to just give you as much information as we had, so that you had a chance to start talking about what is it that you want us to focus in on, so that we can give you the best information based on what you tell us you want us to look at. Judy, you just want to simply go through some of the documents and what we provided, and then we can basically, we just want to hear from you as to where you want to go with this thing.
Excuse me, City Manager, can I ask you, since the beginning you mentioned that the penalties for the fire department is $250. If you you mentioned that we can reduce that to 10% flat rate.
We are looking, and at this point, that's probably what we're going to be bringing back to you, is an adjustment from the flat-out $250 penalty for one day being delinquent,
yes,
to a 10%, just like we have on the licenses, a 10% penalty per month for up to 5 months. And I think that would be more reasonable, but we'll bring that back to you for your consideration.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Castro. Anyone else? Ms. Raj? No. Ms. Hashem?
Okay. Included in your package here is one of the sheets from the Business License Municipal Code, and it just reflects a manufacturing or wholesaling or a retail store business. These businesses are based on gross receipts, and basically what I was trying to identify was, if a business was selling quite a number of years ago, I think I put 1975, $12,000, then their fee for the annual license would have been $60. In today's market, if they were selling $250,000, that same business would be paying $80 quarterly or $320 annually. So if, over a period of years, because our business license rates have not changed since 1975. So if over a period of years the sales have increased, then obviously your business license has increased. Or looking at it differently, if with the economy and everything, your business license, your gross sales have decreased, then your business license has decreased. So it's all relative to this schedule. The second set of pages there is CSMFO, which is a California State Municipal Finance Officers Association. This was a business license survey that was conducted, I think, maybe a year or two ago, but I happened to find it on because I keep all of the questions that run through CSMFO because they have very good information. They do a lot of surveys. So basically, all this schedule would show is what the various cities were, what their population was, are they regulatory or revenue producing as far as their business licenses go, is it a fixed or variable rate? Because obviously ours are both. We have some fixed rates, but we also have some gross receipt rates. And if it's variable, what is the basis? Is it based on type of business, gross receipts? Let's see if there's anything else in here. It's in some cases revenue. It's based on the revenue of the business. So that just gives you sort of a little bit of comparison on those 3 pages of what other cities are doing as far as their business licenses go. The following schedule is the current business license survey that the revenue officer in my department conducted recently. So there you can see also the name of the city, their business license rate, the basis, whether or not they charge interest, and whether or not they charge penalty fees. And I think then the following is just really some emails that were received by the revenue officer that sort of discuss each individual city business license fees and their penalties, et cetera. Let's see what else is here. And then at the end, it includes the master fee schedule. So I don't know if you have any questions on those, or you probably haven't had time to absorb them, but if you have any questions, I can try and answer.
Yes, is someone made that comparison from Calexico to El Centro? I mean, I didn't see any numbers from El Centro.
Yes, I'm sure she did.
Well, can you tell me the amount of?
Actually, I can get that information for you, but on the top of my head, I don't have it.
Because I looked for that,
but I know
didn't
that
find
she
it.
did call
Yes.
them. I know she
There's
did.
a page
and
from
Raleigh
City
as
of
well.
El Centro
Oh,
in the
really?
packet.
Oh, okay.
They're not page numbers are not numbered. But it's the page immediately before
There's
a page that says Municipal Code 2011. I can pull it out and show it to you.
City of El Centro, okay.
Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I had a lot of comments regarding this item, but if I may, the information before us today provided by Finance Director Hashem. Thank you, Hashem, Director Hashem. Our responses from other cities. From my review, the data is too complex for this council to give any kind of direction to the city manager or the finance director. I think that this is a perfect opportunity to turn this thing over to the Financial Advisory Committee and see if they can do some comparisons, as Councilman or Mayor Pro Tem Costler just mentioned, and see if they can make some kind of, compile some kind of recommendations to the finance director and the city manager. And then maybe from that discussions, between them, they can decide what could be brought to the council. But I would like to, this thing, there's too much information here. I would like to just see it given to them. It's a perfect project for them to work on. And then they working with the finance director and city manager on the studies that they put together.
Very good point, Mr. Romero. I agree.
Mayor?
Yes, sir. Mr. Hodge, and then Mr. Castro.
Good point. For me, I'm not so interested on what Alhambra charges. I'm interested more in what El Centro or Brawley charges right here in the valley. So we need to get those numbers. If it's a little higher than El Centro, but comparable, so be it. What I'm more concerned about is coming from the community about the fire fees, way too high. This is very vague, but to create and improve upon a system within the city where we are more fair towards all businesses. Also, I would recommend that we look at some up-to-date kind of training or for code enforcers, and specifically look at the situation with the swap meets. I've talked to both of them, and they both think that they're getting a bad deal, and the other side or the other swap meet's getting a better deal. And so that has to be rectified.
Mr. Castro?
Yes, also, I would like to add that so many people approach to me, and these people struggling to make payments or to pay the whole amount of the business license fee. My point here is that City Manager, I know that you already been working on this, but I would like to most everybody, or I think everybody support this, that these people needs make some partial payments or
relief,
or at least half, or we need to help. Definitely, these people need help, and I want to make clear that we need to work. These people deserve to continue work and make business in the city of Calexico, and we as city council, we need to support them. We need to support them. So that's the reason I bring this this item. And I know you already doing that, city manager, and I want my colleagues know what's going on. And I know that you agree on this. But, that's my point. It's very important for me.
Thank you, Mr. Castro. Any other?
Just I guess to add to what we're talking about is that the question here is probably more towards the increased fees in the fire department's end of it, because the business license itself, the amount billed for the business license itself, that's the one that has been staying the same for a while now.
1975.
It's not the business license that we're trying to work out here. It's more the added fees that came specifically from the fire department, that late fee, the $250 late fee, I believe, is what we're trying to differentiate here, right?
We're trying to establish a focus on what we want to do.
So
with
it's not necessarily the business license, because the business license itself is not the one that is increasing or has increased. It's the added-on fees for the other issues, the other needs. Is that correct?
That's correct. And like I said, we are going to bring back that item to you specifically, for the next coming year, effective January 1st next year.
Mr. Hermosillo, you have a comment?
Just before Mr. Hermosillo, but in conversations with you, Mr. Rodriguez, I do remember that you said that there have been businesses that have approached you and you have worked things out with them.
Yes.
As far as paying that late fee?
Yes, we have been aware of businesses that have come to us either through council or through just come in and had concerns about being able to pay them. I want to make it very clear that we're not here to put businesses out of business. We're here to help them. So if we need to help them in that way, we certainly are trying to do that. So, and like I said, I probably have had more than a handful of people have come to us, and we've helped them do that. Because I don't think they're looking not to pay; they're looking to get assistance in paying it.
Okay. Mr. Macio.
Yes. Excuse me. On the issue on the penalty is too high. It's just ridiculous. That you should focus on that.
On the what now?
On the penalty, on the late
on the
fee.
building fees.
And the late fee.
On the late fees.
For
Okay.
the
Yeah,
fire?
for the license.
For the business license or the fire?
I believe it's I never been late, so I believe.
But you know,
Write that down, make a record.
I believe it's the business.
we'll ask your former boss.
Thank you for your concern.
So, but also, business licenses shouldn't be in payments. You shouldn't take payments for business licenses. It should be a lump sum. This isn't. You can't have a layaway program here.
Layaway.
It costs money to do business. It's going to cost you to do business anywhere you go. So I wouldn't even think of taking a layaway plan on a license. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Anyone else?
No.
Ms. Hashem, did you have anything else? So direction be given?
Yeah, to send them to the
Financial Advisory Committee and have them then look at this and maybe they can develop a plan of action. Does that sound good?
This is information.
Thank you, Mr. Hargrave.
Right,
I appreciate your help.
Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I guess the question is, what can we focus in on what you want them to look at, or can you give us some parameters,
Because
so
there's
that they know what to look at?
Right, there's separate issues. There's the penalty fees, there's fire inspection fees, and then there are the business license fees.
The one that created all the havoc was the late fees for the fire.
Right, and
that would be
we're already going to bring that back to you. So I don't know if you want to create more work for the Finance Committee on that.
Well, but
we certainly can send it to them.
There's comparisons from other communities to establish if we're over, fair, under. By them doing a comparison like what other communities are doing, then they can come into recommendations to you.
And you
to
want
you in the finance director.
you want that to be related to business license fees because
The
penalties.
business license fees.
Okay.
You already have resolved you're going to resolve the late fees?
At least my recommendation, I know what my recommendation is probably going to be to you in reference to the
At the next
penalty
council
on.
meeting?
I'm sorry?
At the next
No, not
council
the next council meeting, but it'll be in play by January 1st, which is the next cycle.
All right.
Another area on behalf of the city is a tracking system within our city as to improve upon that we know which businesses have really gone out of business, not keep sending them, whatever, a letter or something.
Yeah, maybe they're still on the
You're
list,
late.
but they're not there.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Anyway.
So what is the actual direction to the Finance Committee?
Well, we're going to look at
the business license fees.
To look at the whole business license and compare them throughout the valley? Is that what you
that's
want?
the first
Not
step.
the valley, but the other studies that Director Hashem provided.
So not just the valley, but
Right.
yeah, beyond the valley.
I mean, there are people that they're in business. They understand the obligation of the business license. They know that they have to pay them what they could probably help in contributing. This is an opportunity for the community or the business community to contribute in their version if these fees are fair or not. And the thing with the business license fees, they've been there since 1975, so nobody can say we're too high. They've been there for what, 25, 35?
35,
years.
36.
36 years, so.
But
All right.
I think the focus was given that, some of these the lateness and of the fire fees and such. And I think that needs to be, because I've looked at the business license, they haven't changed. So give them one focus and have them compare with other cities in the valley. You've got copies of the city of Imperial Beach, which is a similar community, but there's, it's on the border. and banning, etc. So let's bring some of the valley cities into play.
So
You have-
still want- all we're looking for is 3 nods, so we know which direction.
Well, you got one here,
But only on,
two here.
only on the fire penalty or the fee?
I think that's where the most complaints were.
I'd still like to look.
Also, excuse me. I believe that also we need to check the gross of if it is of every business, because I see a chart here that came up with some numbers, and we need to work on also. My concern is also that the finance department can work on those numbers. Either we can reduce the percentage of, sometimes the people only make $200,000 a year, and it says on the chart that the city of Calexico they charge $250 for business fee. So, my point is that the finance department can give us more information about that. How can reduce is the business license fees too high?
I think we should bring that to the Financial Advisory Committee, and then they bring it back to us, kind of like a recommendation.
Yeah.
But not to the Finance Department per se, but to the committee.
Yeah, the finance department already is overburdened with a lot of requests by this council. And the Financial Advisory Commission can move forward with this thing.
Right. Yeah. It's a good issue to check on the gross of each business. So
One of the things that, as far as like helping reduce the fees, and which was mentioned in a discussion, is if they pay by January 30th or 31st, that they be given a discount. But if they continue to pay during the year, month after month, and there's no discount, they got to pay the full impact.
Right. Or more, or interest. So the focus for Mr. Rodriguez is to look. Could you repeat the focus to me, Mr. Rodriguez?
He doesn't know.
It's to look at everything, it sounds like.
Poor man is looking like.
Check the video.
We'll just send it to the Finance Committee. They can
It's
figure
a
it out.
very simple start. What's the focus on what we're going to do? Huh? Okay. So
Anyway, it's information only.
we'll let the Finance Committee come up with a focus. How's
There you
that?
go, that's okay with
We'll put the burden on them. You need work. Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez.
But
One final comment, Mr. Hodge?
all right, let me try to say it in layman's terms or what I hear from people, business people. Let's see. Mr. Hodge, could you please check about code enforcers? Now, I'm just saying what I've heard. Make sure that they hit up on all businesses and make sure that all businesses pay their licenses and not some are excused or looked away. That's what I've heard.
So enforcement.
Enforcement, thank you. Training. The other is
Fees table.
they're upset about why are they calling us and pressuring us, meaning the city, when we haven't been in business for years. What the heck is going on? Don't they know? Tracking. And I still would like to look at if some of these businesses are really overwhelmed and have high fees to pay, that we can give them some
Fees table.
relief. Yes.
Thank you.
So that
Enforcement, tracking, fees table. You got it now?
Got it.
Thank you. Moving on. Number 11. Oh, and I believe this is a consent item?
Yes, Mayor, and since it is a consent items, I don't have any questions. If there are not any,
I think it's 10 and 11.
I'm sorry.
that are-
10, 11, enterprise consent.
Enterprise consent, and did we do 10?
This is 10. We're going to 10.
Okay, we're going to get to that.
And then if you added the hazard change order item,
Is that going to be included in here
So-
or afterwards?
it can be included in consent if,
Okay, so we're going to include
Council
10, 11, and then
And-
12, which is a consent calendar for the enterprise fund departments. Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar?
For 10,
10, 11,
11,
and
12.
the emergency item?
Which is 12.
I so move.
Moved by Mr. Hodge. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr.
Second.
Ms. Hurtado. Please vote. Five oh, motion carries. Thank you. Now moving on to our future agenda items, and I will start with Ms. Hurtado.
Oh, none at this time.
None at this time?
No. Future agenda items?
Future addendum.
Future agenda items, Mr. Hodge.
Just a couple.
Limited to 3.
Just a couple. Oh, well, 3, because you allowed me to. One, I think we should put on the agenda for discussion and consideration on possibly reopening City Hall on Fridays. So what would we need to look at? I've heard feedback about how many possibly employees, some don't care for that move because they have part-time jobs. I respect that. But how many do? And we have to consider the community.
I think that would be good for the next fiscal year.
That's a labor issue.
Right, we'll put it under exec session because that's a meet and confer issue. So we
Okay.
can discuss that next time in
But it
executive
is an
session.
issue on my part. Okay. No, there was just another one, and that is we need to appoint, for the loss of Mrs. D, I believe, right?
Mrs. Denecochea, the
Yes,
historical.
Calexico's historian.
That's Ms. Hurtado's, Councilwoman Hurtado's appointment.
You need a point for the historical committee.
Mrs. D.
Right.
And on that, when are we going to honor her? Weren't we going to do something in respect for her here?
Yeah, we'd have to consult with the family, though, I think, first.
Then we
Thank you.
we set that then for next agenda?
Yes.
The Carnegie Committee, which she was a part of and was instrumental in the restoration of the Carnegie Library, is planning a program on September 8th, which is her birthday, and it's also National Literacy Day, so that would be very indicative of what she lived for also, and that's going to be September 8th. Her family has already been invited. We're going to be putting up the National Historic Designation plaque on that day, and also a donor wall at the Carnegie Library. So they are already planning that. If you wanted to do something sooner, you're
I think
more
that
than
would be-
welcome to, but I wanted to let you know that's coming.
I think that would be perfect.
Thank you.
That was her heart and soul, was the Carnegie Library.
And I'm the one that appointed her, so I have to make an appointment.
Oh, you appointed her?
I believe so.
Okay. Well, we'll find out who appointed Mrs. Denecochea, and then we'll make the appropriate adjustments. Thank you, Mr. Hodge. Mr. Castro?
Yes, for the city manager, I would like to hear that perform evaluation for each department. At least 2 department heads every council meeting, and I would like to hear that for the next council meeting. And I'm not sure, that's why I'm going to ask you, is that has to be in executive session or it has to be public?
The council actually only appoints the city attorney and the city manager, so the only performance evaluations that can be done by the council are the city attorney and city manager. The city manager has the authority to do the performance evaluations of all department heads. The council doesn't perform that. So it can't be done by the council either in open session or in closed session.
See, but, okay, but we can do that, but I asked Mr. Rodriguez to do that. So I ask you, city manager, can you do that for the next council meeting or?
Oh, not to be presented at the council meeting, but to...
No, but
For
that's
him
my
to
question. Can
perform
we
them.
present it or we can?
Can you do an
talk about it?
evaluation and present it to the council members? Is that what you want?
Yes.
No,
But not before the public hearing.
Well, he wants to know.
Yeah, but you can't, this is between the city manager and staff.
Yeah, this is a confidential issue, is it not?
Yeah,
And-
I understand that. That's the
And
reason
that's
I
part of
asked
his
you, but-
duties as
but
a
we
city
need-
manager.
We need to inform. I'd like to know that perform evaluation for each department. And that's the reason.
Who is
Not gonna
privy?
be public, that's okay.
Who's privy to that information?
The city manager is privy to it. The city council is not, personnel documents are not,
That's what I figured.
So
To the-
we
for the
cannot
city
receive a
council.
report on.
right.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
But we can talk about, the council evaluates the city manager's performance, and so how he goes about with his performance, evaluating department heads, et cetera, those things, you can talk to the city manager that you need to do evaluations, et cetera. Those are things the council can discuss with the city manager in closed session.
Okay, thank you. Anything else, Mr.
But you can't
Castro? No.
have the copies of reports of
No, that's all
performance
confidential.
Not even information.
Nothing,
No.
Nothing?
nothing. You can't be looking at the files.
You're lucky.
Mr. Mayor,
No, the citizens can't have people's performance evaluations either.
Department heads.
Yeah, but we're only policymakers, and we direct our city manager.
That's what I asked.
Yeah, that's all confidential information. Mr. Were you done, Mr. Castro?
May I
Mr.
just comment something on that real quick? Mr. Mayor, we are going through a revamping also as well, so there may be some changes in the positions at this time as they're now held. So would it be the appropriate time?
I think it would be premature.
It would be premature,
Yeah.
actually, to be wanting to do those types of evaluations at this point.
I think we should wait several months till a full-time city manager is appointed by the city council, so let them do the evaluations. No. Mr. Romero?
At the second regular meeting in February, I had requested to have an official application for anyone interested in serving in one of the city's commissions with the appointments made by the council members. I would like to resume this before I appoint the following. I will ask for a future agenda item besides this item for the advertisement of a planning commissioner, since my appointee, Mr. Carlton Hargrave, has been or will be appointed to the County of Imperial Planning Commission by Supervisor District 1 John Renison. It was believed that there would be a conflict serving at both levels, but it was in the best interest, for clarity's sake, for him to submit his resignation. So it's those two items.
Okay.
And I would like to have that application done before I appoint the next person.
Thank you, Mr. Romero. And I just have one item, Mr. Rodriguez, and that is a status update on the information we talked about earlier, which was the $28 million from the federal government. I know that you've been working on it, but perhaps a status update at the next meeting. And that would be the water treatment plant. Thank you very much. This meeting is now adjourned.